Well, let's move on to a team that's probably going to be a little bit more competitive in the standings next year, and that's Golden State.
A little more. Yeah.
The defending champions, who won 53 games last year,
Yep.
and will probably replicate a similar regular season record this year.
Maybe projected to
So
win
their big,
51.
yeah, their big offseason moves are they lost Gary Payton and Otto Porter. There was a lot of hand wringing over, losing two guys who were really big parts of their championship rotation.
Yeah.
But, they did add the aforementioned JaMychal Green. They added Donte DiVincenzo. And then they have two former rookies in Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga, who, looked solid in really limited minutes last year. Kuminga played a little bit more than Moody, but might be ready for larger roles.
Yeah. Completely different team from my Timberwolves, but I feel like the way that we were talking about them with like different parts of the rosters having big chances to boom or bust kind of thing, I feel, that's present too in Golden State, obviously on another level of like established team success. But, you can see, first I look at their big three, they're like, all time most successful big three since Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, and Tony Parker. And I'm like, is Clay still an all-star level player? Is Draymond going to take a step back? Is Steph going to have another MVP season, or is he maybe going to like have maybe a little bit of a rickety, injury prone, like man in his 30s kind of season? That's just like one part of their roster. You mentioned the rookies, not the rookies, the former rookies, but also I guess they drafted Patrick Baldwin, right? They signed him to a contract. He's a interesting prospect in his own right. One of them becoming a real NBA player this year would be a huge thing. Even if just Kuminga or just Moody becomes a starter level player, even a low end starter, but just someone who's like kind of on the trajectory towards a good starting player, like that makes a massive difference for them. That's like, Otto Porter. I don't care anymore. As it stands right now, Otto Porter, Gary Payton Jr., Bjelica had some really useful minutes for them both in the regular season and the playoffs. Like those are easily replaceable parts unless those rookies are not good in their second and third year for James Wiseman.
That's true. Yeah. James Wiseman is a big question mark. Like, who knows how much he'll play, if he'll play. I mean, if you can give the Warriors anything, that's probably icing on the cake. He had moments in Summer League this year where he looked pretty good, at least defensively.
He's always looked good in like like very specific capacities. James Wiseman is a monster. He'll throw down. He'll have these rim running dunks. He'll shoot threes. He'll run the whole length of the floor. He loves to run the whole length of that floor. He's like that excited teenager who's all realizing he's way faster than everyone else, but can't dribble yet. And he's just sprinting out and hoping the ball's still in his hands by the time he gets to the basket. But yeah, he could also just be he could never play a meaningful minute. He could be a nobody in the NBA. Like that's still totally on the table. Or he's a waiting star and Golden State starting center this year, possibly. Like that's in the cards.
The more time that goes on without him playing meaningful rotation minutes, the harder it is to envision him being like a star, despite the fact that he's drafted so high. And the talent is obviously there, the physical gifts at least.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to wonder if he can put it all together. And like at this point, it's a win for him and a win for the Warriors if he can just be their backup five and be awesome at shutting down the rim and be good enough at diving to it on offense where he's not a liability on the offensive side of the floor.
Yeah, there's so little data on Wiseman that like the next game he plays could like we'll all like have our idea of Wiseman potentially totally transform. Like one game could change at this point because he's played so little, and all his games came in a rookie season, of which like he was bad in that rookie season. But like again, like if he has one game, a week of games where he looks solid, we'll all be completely like we're all ready to transform our James Wiseman opinions, but like I think it's fair to be pessimistic at this point. Like I'm not buying stock, but I'll try to get in extra early if I see that stock rising, but I will not be Nostradamus on that one.
Yeah. So my big question with the Warriors, I think they have most of a championship rotation intact. They have Curry and Clay, as long as Clay is back to being even a semblance of Clay. Excellent backcourt. Wiggins has proven to be just like a really rock solid third option that can be an excellent perimeter defender.
Maple Jordan,
Draymond
baby. Maple Jordan.
Yeah. Draymond's Kevon Looney is back. Jordan Poole is their instant offense off the bench guy.
So I have a Jordan Poole. Honestly, this whole time didn't think of Jordan Poole. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I think he'll continue to improve and continue to just be, a guy who will be their third guard and give them really good minutes and score a lot of buckets. But
does some ridiculous things off the dribble.
He does. He's an insane pull-up jump shooter. But my question is just, they have Donte DiVincenzo, they have Moses Moody, they have Kuminga. Can any of these three guys become that wing that the Warriors really need for just like a really reliable seventh guy in their rotation?
Big DiVincenzo fan. I think there's a chance he can pop in Golden State, replacing some of that Gary Payton defense. DiVincenzo was a great defender, and he looked awesome in Milwaukee for so many years. He was awkward in Milwaukee because he was more of a playmaker than he was a shooter. And I think that becomes less of a problem in Golden State, where it's like they don't mind putting the ball into their like less starry players' hands so that they can run all that Curry, Steve Kerr like off ball action. So like they were happy to put the ball in the hands of Nemanja Bjelica last year, Juan Toscano Anderson the year before that. Like they don't mind like Andre Iguodala the whole time he was there. Like, sure, Andre Iguodala can hold the ball and he's not gonna take any shots. He's just gonna like he's gonna be smart. He's gonna like make plays, and we're gonna have guys flying off screens in advantageous situations. So I think he's potentially a really good fit there. Obviously, a player with some injury concerns recently that we need to see him bounce back from before we can really predict that he's going to have a big year. But I think he's like has a head start on Moses Moody, who's, coming off his rookie season. But I wasn't big on Moses Moody in the draft. Kind of another, like, he's like a small wing with long arms, but I like he looked like kind of limited in some of the stuff he could do in college. He looked good last year in the NBA. Like he looked already like he was pretty much grasping the basics of the role that he's going to be able to have a chance to play there. So like, wouldn't be surprised there. Kuminga played the 5 for them last year. We got excited watching those Kuminga highlights and some games where he would just rip through defenses and just like, dunks and blocks and hit some threes. But I haven't seen anything from him at the NBA level that I'm just like, oh, he's a wing. I loved him in the draft. I was like, this guy looks like Pascal Siakam with better rim pressure.
He's probably more of a 4, maybe 4.5 in the NBA than he is a 3 for sure.
At this point, like I think like when we look at his potential, I think he still has, that combo forward. Again, like I look at Pascal Siakam as the template for him, and in some way he's got athleticism that Siakam has never had in terms of just that like strength and explosion at the rim. But like we got excited about Kuminga in this context where he was playing in a spread 5, like spread 4-1 offense where he was allowed to like attack in a way that's not a real offense. Like they're not going to spread out the floor so Kuminga can go 1-on-1. Like that's not going to be a thing in their playoff package. So I need to see something else from him to make me believe he's going to play that role on that team. And until then, he's a bit of an oddity, a very exciting oddity, but like, I'm really curious to see what they do with Kuminga this year.
Which is why out of the 3, my answer would probably be Moses Moody. Because Donte, although he is a very good defender and somewhat of a playmaker, like his shot really does come and go, especially after the knee injury. He really struggled. Very much in Milwaukee, recovered the shot a little bit in Sacramento, but not enough for them to re-sign him, which is why he's a Warrior. But I do think Moses Moody, looked incredible in Summer League. Obviously, that doesn't always translate to the regular season. But like his struggle in college was being able to generate separation from defenders. I mean, he was an incredible shot maker. I think he has the length to be a good defender, even if he doesn't necessarily have the size to guard bigger forwards in a traditional sense.
Yeah.
Like, the 7 foot wingspan, I think, can really help. And you don't necessarily need crazy ability to separate from defenders and create your own looks if you're playing in Golden State's system, especially if you're not the guy who's going to be on the ball, which he wouldn't be, right? That's going to be Draymond. That's going to be Jordan Poole. That's going to be Curry at times. Moses Moody just needs to stand in the corner and do what Andrew Wiggins did last year,
Yeah.
And if he can do that successfully, like he can definitely be a meaningful part of the rotation.
Yeah, I mean, I like him as the safe pick, and I do agree that he's the most likely to be able to replicate the Wiggins role. I think he's got a little bit less upside than the other guys we're mentioning, but like probably seems like the most likely. My question, I think we've already covered. I wanted to talk about the expectations for the young Warriors, and we've been all over those young Warriors. So let's get out of San Francisco for a second.